Hi there, and welcome back to Building Your Leader Brand. My name is Bob Gentle, and every week I speak to incredible people about their secrets to building, marketing, and monetizing your expertise and the mindset you need for your business to grow and thrive. This week is a special week. One of the things I speak to people a lot about is how opportunity comes into our business. And it really can only come in through one of four doors. It can come in through ads, it can come in through outbound sales, it can come in through content marketing occasionally, or it can come in through relationships and our network. And this week, we are speaking to the daddy of the network, the go-giver himself, Bob Berg. Bob, welcome to the show.
Wow. Thank you, Bob. What a nice introduction. I appreciate that.
Well, I am glad. So you have a huge influence on my life. For a large part of it, without me knowing, I was around networking and networks and networking experts and networking trainers for the majority of my 20s and 30s. And then I discovered they were all essentially referencing one guy, Bob Berg. So, Bob, in your words, how would you introduce yourself? Because I'm simply going to fanboy. There's space for that later. But when you're introducing yourself, how do you do that?
Well, thank you. And I'm not sure they were really necessarily emulating me. But I appreciate the compliment, and I certainly
Referencing.
received that reference. Wow, that's very nice. Really, I'm a former sales guy who learned sales and I think learned people skills and understanding human nature and how to work with people in a way that built everyone in the process, which is something I feel is quite important. Have been speaking now for about 35 years and have a couple books out, Endless Referrals, Network Your Everyday Contacts into Sales, which was sort of my first big book that came out in the 90s, and then it was republished a couple times with updated information, the last one in 2005. And then my biggest book, I guess, has been the Go-Giver, which is a business parable co-authored with the great John David Mann. And that really explains a methodology for being able to really thrive as a result of having a focus on providing immense value to others.
Yeah. So you're being very modest. The Go-Giver sold 10 million copies,
No,
something
not
like
them. A couple million, or 1.5 million, I think, but altogether with the different books, probably a couple million.
Oh, I've written a million copies is what I have written now.
But
10
thank
million.
you. I like that.
My
I'm going to
family
hold that
tells me
vision. 10 million. I like that.
my family tells me I have a propensity to
No, I
exaggeration, but
like
not that much.
it.
Um, and National Speakers Association Hall of Fame speaker. Not just I do a bit of speaking, but what I'd like to speak about today is, on the one hand, the generosity as a strategy. On the one hand, which makes it sound very almost manipulative, but we'll call it what it is: tactical and intentional generosity. Because what goes around comes around, and we want to be intentional about that. And on the other side of this, your book, Endless Referrals, I think is a really important one to reference as well. I am short on time, so I'm going to jump into some fairly specific questions, advocate for the listener a bit, some of who may have read your book, some of who may not have. If you haven't, go and do it.
Oh, thank you.
The first one I think is generosity, the go-giver philosophy. It's very easy, and I think a lot of people, when they don't spend time with it, can be a little bit skeptical, and they can say, well, I need to see results quickly. How can me giving everything away, putting all my emphasis on giving value, how can that lead systematically to me achieving value?
Mm-hmm. So there are a couple premises I want to go back to as we do that. First, what's interesting is whenever anyone talks about the book, they use the word generosity. I never use the word generosity. Um, I don't know why I don't. I kind of think is that it to me it's sort of almost bragging about doing good things by saying it's
Mm.
generosity. That's just me, but everybody else says that, and that's fine if they'd like to. But just for the record, I never say the Go Giver is about generosity. Okay.
Right.
Really, what it's about is it's about understanding a very, very basic concept, and that is shifting your focus. And I think this is really where it all begins, shifting your focus from getting to giving. And when we say giving in this context, Bob, we simply mean constantly and consistently providing immense value to others, understanding that doing so is not only a more fulfilling way of conducting business, it also happens to be the most financially profitable way as well, but not for any kind of woo woo, way out there, magical, mystical type of reasons. Oh, just give and good things will happen. No, not at all. It actually ties very much into human nature. And that is when you're that person who can take your focus off yourself and place it on genuinely and authentically serving others, discovering their needs, their wants, their desires, making it about helping them solve their problems and challenges, making it about moving them closer to happiness. Well, people feel good about you. They feel great about you. They want to get to know you. They certainly like you. They come to trust you. They want to be in relationship with you. They want to do business with you. They want to tell the world about you. They want to be your personal walking ambassador. So that's the first thing. Second is when you said just giving yourself away, but you're not just giving yourself away. To give yourself away, just to would that mean you're doing things without charging for it? Well, no, you couldn't be in business doing that. What it really means is understanding that the immense value that you provide is so phenomenal, okay, that the money that they willingly pay in exchange for this value, this product, service, and everything that comes along with it is so immense that they feel great about it because they're receiving much more in value than what they're paying for, while you make a very healthy profit. Okay. Now, oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that in terms of the question you asked, and it's a good question. Well, then what if you need money really fast? Well, okay, so what the question I think really is okay, Bob, this go giver stuff, this placing others' interest first, making it about them. Yeah, that's fine after I have the money, but I mean, for now, I have to make sales. I've got to focus on the money. Well, so let's ask that. Let's look at this. I'm going to make a suggestion, and that is that nobody is going to buy from you because you need money. Okay. They're
Yeah,
not gonna
wouldn't have been nice.
Right, they're not gonna buy from you because you have a quota to meet, because you have a goal you want to accomplish, or because you have a mortgage payment due. No. They're gonna buy from you because they believe that they will be better off by doing so than by not doing so. So if you wanna earn money faster, are you better off focusing on the money and focusing on yourself and what's in it for you? Or are you better off focusing on them and how you can solve a problem of theirs, make their life better, bring them what they need, want, or desire?
What I'm hearing is that this is a very creative process. It's a very individual process that really you have to look at the person who's in front of you today and how can you improve their life
Yes,
today.
perfect.
Um, and one of the things that comes out of this, and this is really flipping across to more generalized conversation around networking, is that referrals are often limited by the quality of the networks that we have. So, how can we, from a networking perspective, how can we make sure that we're giving value
Mhm.
where we can be very valuable to people who don't necessarily have the ability to reciprocate
Oh,
to the
sure.
degree that we
Absolutely.
would like? So, how can
Absolutely.
we migrate our
Yeah.
network to one where we really feel is going to bring us value?
Okay. So, and that's a great question. First, what is value? Value is simply the relative worth or desirability of a thing, of something, to the end user or beholder. Okay. When we meet a new person, first let's look at what is networking. Okay. Networking is simply the cultivating of mutually beneficial give and receive win-win relationships. The emphasis on the give part, the giving value. When you meet someone new, your first thought hopefully is not, I hope this person can either buy from me or refer me to somebody or whatever, because you're focused on the wrong thing, right? You want to be focused on that person. You want to ask that person questions about themselves and their business. Okay. You want to ask that person a question such as, how can I know if someone I'm speaking with is a good potential client for you? Right. You want to make it about them. We go through the process of networking, which is really nothing more than making a personal and authentic connection with another human being. We do this without attachment to what we're going to get in return. Now, some people say, "Well, you're doing it without expectation." I I know what they mean when they say that, but I don't like that word as much, because I want you to expect good things to happen. That doesn't mean it has to happen from that person or from the next or someone else. That's why I say attachment. I want you to expect that every time you make a good connection, something good's going to happen. And by the way, it may be business, but it may just be a new friend. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Okay, without attachment, which is an emotional need for a certain result. Okay. And
I was going to say it's simply like knowing that when certain things happen, other things are the natural consequences of that. It's the
absolutely.
physics of human relationships.
Absolutely. So, you meet a bunch of people, and I mean, not at one time necessarily, but over time, you're building your network of people who, you're adding value to them. How? Well, it depends how they like having value added to them. And it might be as much as sending a personal handwritten thank you note. It might be from referring them to others. It might be that, their son or daughter is a great football player, and and you see an article or something online about a football camp coming to town or something, or some star football player, and you send them a note just saying, I heard this and I know your son or your daughter is a great, thought you might find this, just things that you can do to be of value to them. It might be something about their business that maybe they know about, maybe they don't, but something that you heard that you can, and again, maybe introducing them to someone else that can value them, or that can provide value to them, as long as you do that in the correct way. There's lots of ways: sharing your time, sharing your resources, sharing your listening ear, whatever it happens to be. But as you build this net, you're building a network of people, as Sam in the story advised Joe, the main protege. All things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to those people they know, like, and trust. And as you build this network of people, okay, what you're doing, and this is, John David Mann, my co-author, and I, we call this, that you're creating the benevolent context for your
Mm.
success, right?
So there's two questions come out of that.
Sure.
Number one, you're potentially talking about a large number of people, and you want to be intentional about how you are attentive
Hmm.
to potentially a large number of people. What systems do you have in place to add a safety net and some structure to this?
Well, I mean, there are all sorts of, contact management systems. They call them contact relationship management systems, CRMs, right? And I think a lot of them are very good. But when people say, well, which one should I? Which one is the best? My answer is always the one you're going to actually use.
Yeah.
I didn't make that answer up. I learned that from someone else, but it always made the most sense to me, because if you have all the bells and whistles and all these things, and it's so intimidating that you're not going to use it, don't bother. Or it can be just a little, something that just has enough that you can put in the information you need, and the little thing about knowing when to follow through and when to this and so forth, and names of their, to me, the simpler the better. But I'm not really a tech, oriented person. So yeah, I think whatever you're going to use, to whichever one you're actually going to utilize, that's the best one to get.
Do you have a favorite? And you can also say,
No,
I'm not. Don't ask me.
no, not really. Not really. I'm very basic about it, and especially, as I get older, and I'm not retired by any means, but I'm semi-retired, and so I'm less, less likely to really go through doing all that. It's just easier for me to just have them in my little file that I have that is, very very untechy.
The next question I have is again, it's leaning into the techie side of things. But when I was in my 20s and early 30s, networking and relationship building was a fairly analog thing. There was a bit of social media. But these days, it's so easy to access anybody, it's almost a problem. Are there any tips or advice that you would offer for people when they're looking at bringing this into the online space, which is for many people these days the space?
So, here, when social media first began to be a real thing, I was off. In fact, probably the most asked question was, "Can you really build relationships on social media? When you're not. I mean, not just connect with people, but or contact, but build relationships on social
Mm,
media as opposed to face to face." And what I'd always say is, 40 years ago when I first started in sales, um, I used to build relationships with my prospects, customers, and clients without ever having seen them, and we did this through this real piece of technology called the telephone. And to me it's all the same, only different. I think it's much better now, of course, that we have all these great types of media and platforms and ways that we can connect with people. But it's still, Bob, it all comes down, and it's never all things being equal. People do business with and refer business to those computers they know, like, and trust. No, it's the
yeah,
person, right? What social media and other forms of technology do for us is they allow us to connect with people easier and faster that we may not ever have had the opportunity to connect with. But you've still got to do it in a human way. We always talk about, B to B, business to business, B to C, business to consumer. Well, it's always H to H. It's human to human, and it's still how you make that connection. My feeling is, before everything you post, before everything you comment, before everything you put in, just ask yourself: is what I'm about to hit send on, is it more likely to add value to that other person or persons or not? And if
yeah.
the answer is yes, hit send. You know?
So I want to pivot into referrals for a moment and specifically how we ask for referrals.
Sure.
There are lots of situations in my work with clients where I can see that they're wonderful at what they do. They're awesome. They're talking to people all the time, but they never actually have this moment where they say, "Hey, do you know anybody who might need the kind of thing I do?" How do you advise people on the mindset side of asking for referrals, and also maybe some tactical forms of words that um,
Sure.
are easy?
Yeah. So I'm going to suggest first that it might be easier for someone to, instead of just asking right out for referrals, if they have not gotten over their fear of doing that. And by the way, not asking for referrals pretty much always comes down to fear.
Hmm.
Okay. Fear of rejection, fear of, overstaying my welcome, fear of bothering them, fear of appearing desperate. Now, none of those things have to be true at all. Um, but if that's how a person feels, that's how they feel. And we could do a whole thing on how to get past that, and that's fine. But let's right now just go to how to deal with that. Okay. So if you have those feelings of fear of asking, what I'm going to suggest is, instead of coming right out and just asking, use what I call the referral bridge, or the bridge phrase. And what is a bridge? Well, in the physical world, a bridge is a mechanism, if you will, that helps connect a person from one safe piece of land to another safe piece of land. It's a bridge, right? Well, in the referral world, it's the same thing, only it's emotional. It helps help you go from one safe piece of land, the know, like, and trust relationship with your happy customer or client, or or referral source. Maybe even if they haven't done business with you, they can still be a referral. They may just not need what you have. But let's say in this case, it's a customer or a client. Okay. From one safe piece of land, the know, like, and trust relationship that this client has with you, to another safe piece of land, asking for referrals in a way that you and they feel very comfortable. Because if you don't feel comfortable, they're not going to feel comfortable. So let's use the bridge. And the bridge phrase could be, Dave, um, as more and more of my business is now through referrals and introductions, I find it's helpful to partner with my clients and friends such as you. Can we take a few quick minutes and run past the names of some other people I might also be able to help? Now, let's go through that and look at why that's so effective. The first is, as more and more of my business is now through referrals and introductions. Now, what you're doing here is you're creating the environment where they know that's how you do business and that's what you're going to be asking. Now, you might say, well, wait a second, Bob, but what if right now your business is not mainly through referrals and you don't want to fib? No, you don't. So here's what I would say instead of that first line. Once you start getting the referrals, which you will, then go back to that first one I just mentioned. But for now, if you're not at that point yet, you simply say, Dave, I'm in the process of expanding my referral business, which is exactly what you are. You're in the process of expanding your referral business. So whether you start out with, I'm in the process of expanding my referral business, or as more and more of my business is now through referrals and introductions, okay, then the next part, I find it helpful. So not desperate or needy, but helpful to partner. That's a key word because it gives them partnership and buy-in to what you're doing. Partner with my clients and friends such as you. Now, the next part of the bridge phrase, very key. Can we take a few quick minutes and run past the names? This is what I call fast or quick language. Okay, you're not saying it fast. You're not speaking quickly, but the words you use are implying correctly that you're not going to take up a lot of their busy schedule, which will make both you and them feel more comfortable. So listen to these fast words. Can we take a few quick minutes and run past the names of some, okay, and then of the next part, of some other people I might also be able to help? Now notice I said might. Why did I say might? Because I want this other person to feel very comfortable that you're not assuming that everybody's going to be interested, and that this referral source never has to worry about you being so, dogmatic or over the top and insistent that people are interested. So you're letting them know there's always an out or a back door, okay, who I might also be able to help.
That was a
That's the
thing of
bridge
beauty.
phrase. Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I think I
Now we can
you
go into
know
the actual asking if you want, but that was the bridge phrase that gets you comfortable with the process.
I think I'm very aware of your time, and I have a few more questions to ask you. But I think what I love about that's answering a question with the ease of a craftsman is a very hard thing to do. And anybody listening to that, I hope you're going to go back and write that down. And I say write it down for a very specific reason. Bob, having a career in sales, will be very familiar with the idea of you need to script things until they're natural.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When people say, oh, scripting, but isn't that less than authentic? Absolutely not. Can you imagine going to a concert and seeing your favorite band? Do you think that they haven't scripted out their performance? Have they not rehearsed for hours and hours and hours? But
Yeah,
when they're up there, do they sound rehearsed? Of course not, because it's now part of them. It's part of their head. It's part of their heart. So, yeah, you learn what you need to learn so that you feel so comfortable doing what you're doing, you can actually place your focus 100% on the other person instead of
yeah,
having to think about what comes next. Now, you're
yeah.
absolutely correct, Bob.
You need to learn the tool before you can become creative with the tool.
Absolutely. Yes.
So, Bob, I want to move us into the very actionable, and it's been very actionable so far, but I like to have a little segment where I ask people to share a few things that people can take action on
Mhm.
today. And you told me you are unusually prepared for this. Well, I say unusually, and most of my guests aren't, but you're a pro. So I'm going to let you drive at this point.
Well, I would just say this: it's to recognize what I think is the most important part of this process, and that is, as you're focused on adding value to that other person's life, you've got to not assume that what you believe is of value is what they believe is of value. Right? So remember when we went back to what is value, the relative worth, right? The relative worth or desirability of a thing to the end user or beholder. What is it about this thing, this product, service, concept, idea, help, introductions, knowledge, whatever it happens to be, okay? So what happens is, because we tend to believe that people come from the same set of beliefs that we have, what we find to be of value is what other people find to be of, and it's just not true. So we've always got to make sure that we ask questions, we do our research, we listen, so that as we're looking to add value to this other person's life in the relationship building process, the sales process, what have you, that everything we do is about what will bring value to them, not what we think. And that's the most important thing you can do. It's in my opinion, it's the most important thing you can have in mind. So it's always be adding value to others while understanding what exactly is of value to them.
Yeah. Bob, if people want to find out more about you, if they want to go deeper into the Bob Berg world, how can they do that?
Yeah, the best thing to do is to go to Burg, BURG.com. And pretty much everything is there, including my free daily impact email I send Monday through Friday that they may subscribe to if they'd like. And we have an online sales extravaganza coming up over 3 days in late January called SalesWise Live Sales Mastery, and it will be an online event. And while it's at saleswiselive.com, they can also find out more at berg.com.
I will put links to all of that in the show notes. Bob, you have been awesome. I honestly could, and you can probably tell, speak to you for another hour and a half. It's not going to happen today.
Well, you're a fantastic host. You made it easy.
Well, thank you. So that does bring us to the end of another episode. Thank you at home for listening, YouTube for watching. I really appreciate you. If you did enjoy this, you will love the Personal Brand Business Roadmap. It's everything you need to start, scale, or fix your expert business. Just click the link in the show notes or visit amplifyme.agency/roadmap. And again, if you did enjoy the show, I would welcome you to leave a 5-star review wherever you listen to podcasts. That's 5, like the fingers on your hand. And if that's YouTube, it's a thumbs up, a like and a subscribe, and a comment, and all the new junk. Everyone at home for watching, you're awesome. Bob Berg, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, sir.